Hello, this is Taha.
This is Anaina,
This is Movie Masala.
and we're here to yap at you about films we watched recently.
And today we're doing A Real Pain.
Second generation, they go to good schools and they become like, a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And the third generation lives in their mother's basement and smokes pot all day. I mean,
She said that?
I think she was like just speaking generally about like the immigrant
'Cause
experience.
I lived in my mom's basement.
She was just talking about immigrants.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
Firstly, just gonna go over the plot really quick, right? It's basically just Jesse Eisenberg and Keiran Culkin, David and Benji, who are cousins and go on a trip to Poland after their grandmother has died to see the house in which she lived and to just kind of reconnect with their Polish Jewish heritage. It's a very small, simple, but beautifully done film. Like, this film is entirely done within its execution. And that execution is, yes, fully Keiran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg's performances, but also the performances of the rest of the cast, but also the direction, which a lot of the points were done incredibly well. This is a character-based drama. It is very much about like who these two cousins are at this point in their lives. And it's what this does so well, Anaina, is it really captures them at this specific time in their lives where you very much feel like you're part of the tourist group in that sense. The film starts basically almost at the airport where before their flight takes off and ends at the airport when they land, right? And it captures them at this very specific time, not in a sense where you can fully extrapolate their characters from here on. Like, I couldn't tell you what Keiran Culkin does after he goes out of the airport necessarily. But in that moment, I understand him so well, while also feeling like I only got a glimpse of who he is, but in such a way that it does stick with you. And again, fully, Keiran Culkin just got a Golden Globe for his performance in this film, right? He wasn't nominated for a SAG though, which is...
I've seen him talk about the film on multiple interviews and chat shows and stuff, and he genuinely feels like he does not give a fuck about any of the awards he wins. He just seemed to have not even a good time, just like how he normally is. And I feel like I've seen clips from the movie as well, and it just feels like he's being himself, which he says he was for the most part, like obviously acting in a way. And I think that's like the best testament to both an actor and a director, which is just like, man, this person is such a freak. I'm just gonna let them be who they are and put themselves into the character. And that, I think, comes across when you're saying it's a completely character-driven film. And that means Keiran Culkin was the best choice.
Do you know why Jesse Eisenberg cast Keiran Culkin?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically Jesse Eisenberg being like, oh yeah, I met him and I got a wife. And I was like, yeah, he's right. I fully understand that once you just see Keiran Culkin do any interview.
Exactly. You pick up on his vibe immediately, and the vibe is does not give a shit.
Truly. And that's the point of his character in the film as well a bit. He is this person who's very empathetic, very like, oh my God, will light up a room. As David says, you will light up a room and then immediately shit in it. And then he has this weird burst and just completely like take out the energy that he put in himself. And he's just so wonderfully good at doing that. Where I'm like, is he really an asshole? I'm not sure. And in that sense, you like when you see the promotional material, like the poster of this, it very much feels like, oh, Keiran Culkin is supposed to be this guy who is just like such a burden to Jesse Eisenberg's character. But honestly, I hope that this was what the film was trying to do. But at the end, I was like, Benji, you like him. You recognize that he has flaws, but you never feel like he's a burden. You're like, yeah, I kind of vibe with that dude. Like, there's a lot of things he says that I would like, even though it makes David very uncomfortable. And like, he's a very much person who doesn't care for the social setting he is in, but will be more true to power. And that will get a lot of people on his side. But for someone who like David, who has OCD as well, he's just become so uncomfortable to that. So it's like such a thing of like these two people who've had such shared paths, but now have diverged so much, but still having that connection, how they navigate that, it's done so well. And the reason I also want to highlight Jesse Eisenberg's direction is because I think he gives that scenes times to breathe. And he's also the writer of the script. And I think the dialogues are written so well. And you see that's because the film never just has highlight points. it focuses on the moments where nothing really is happening and seeing how they interact. It's taking these conversations after you think they've had their logical conclusion and taking 5 minutes after that and seeing how they progress. It's having those uncomfortable dialogue moments. It feels so validly like these characters are realized. And again, you can very much speak to the fact that Jesse Eisenberg was like, yeah, I travel like that, which I have like these things. And I just basically wrote myself. And he jokes about like that being his range. But honestly, I can't be mad at it because it's if you do what you know best and if you do it really well, then I'm just like, that was good.
No, like I've seen certain episodes of Succession, and he does seem to be playing a version of himself in Succession as well. And honestly, it's so entertaining that I do not care if he does that 6 more times, because it's just, I know he's putting on a character, obviously, right? You can't just be yourself in different characters. But when he promotes those films, he may not be like that in his personal life. But even when he's promoting his films and giving these interviews, he's in some version of his own character, which he's playing in the like media that he does. And it's just so entertaining and refreshing to watch. It's just like some guy just telling you, man, fuck off. But it's great. So yeah, I can't wait to watch the movie.
Yeah, he very much is a person even in that film who's like, if he doesn't feel like something, if he wants to say something, he'll say it, which again speaks to the character. Aside from like the character drama, what the second thing I think it does really well is tell this Jewish story, which is relatively the setting of this film and is kind of this B storyline. But even for a topic which feels very heavy, which feels like it's a very like weighty topic that needs time and everything to breed. Even in the background of something like that, Poland, Holocaust, talking about Jewish people there, it never feels like it's not doing it properly, which I love. I think, again, I'm not Jewish, so I can't really speak to how well it does that, how well it talks about Jewish people. But I can tell in some sense that it fully is speaking with it. It's actively acknowledging the setting it is in. It's putting it into the story as well. And it is taking time to just talk about that when the time needs to. And the biggest point of that story is when they go to Majnik concentration camp. I hope I pronounced that correctly, which is a concentration camp that is pretty much, for lack of a better word, preserved from the time of the Nazis. And Jesse Eisenberg talked about how that concentration camp doesn't really allow people to shoot films there because they're like, hey, we don't want Nazis, quote unquote, as in like people portraying Nazis to be there. But after Jesse Eisenberg had a conversation with them and explained what the film was in the script, they very much were for it because it felt into their mission of what they want to do. And it's portraying that in a contemporary setting. And again, that entire sequence is so good. It's no music. It's just letting the scene speak for itself, letting those images speak for themselves. And it is very like striking and like shocking and just thinking about those things, seeing those visuals for us. And yeah, it's right. You don't need to add anything else. Those things speak for themselves about those horrors and like the genocide that happened. And it's again done really well. Like it never feels like it doesn't know what it's talking about. It never feels like it's not giving it the time it needs. And that is so surprising coming for a film that's 90 minutes long. It's not like this film has a ton of time to do this. Yet no part of it felt rushed. It just felt like you'll understand this as a person in academia right now. You know, when you have a dissertation or you do an essay, which is on a very, very niche topic, on a very small thing, but oh my God, is it in depth? You're like, this is talking about such a small little thing, but oh my God, it didn't tell me everything I needed to know about. This is what this film is.
I've done that with an essay. I've picked on writers' very small flaws and been like, no, I condemn you for the rest of your life for that. So I fully get it. I think it speaks a lot to Jesse Eisenberg as a writer as well. He's been in some of, according to me, best written films, Aaron Sorkin films. And like, I know people have a lot of opinions about Aaron Sorkin, but I truly believe that he writes very, very well. And I'd like to believe that Jesse Eisenberg learned from him. And even if he didn't, I mean, he just seems like a person who says the most in the most succinct, quick way possible. And I feel like, yeah, 90 minutes to tell such a nuanced, in-depth story that is also funny.
Yeah, it is funny. You're so right. There are like great jokes in this film which make me laugh out loud. And again, it's talking about the Holocaust as well. And again, to do my part, to do a very basic part that I feel any film reviewer should do when covering material which is not something they directly relate to. I just went like on like Reddit boards and message boards and just saw how Jewish people talk. That thing also came up. I was like, oh, this is legitimately funny. But at no point did I feel like it wasn't covering the subject material properly. It was like making light of anything. And it was something I think, again, I personally can't speak for any Jewish person, but I feel like an overall consensus that I got from at least those online spaces was that it was received very positively. And secondly, of like Jesse Eisenberg's writing, his previous film was When You Finish Saving the World, which he also wrote. And I haven't watched it. I know it was not as critically well received at all, but it just tells you that you shouldn't write off one person for one project, and they have something, they can always do better. They can always improve. And I'm so happy they did that.
Everyone's on a learning journey. And I mean, Jesse Eisenberg has hit his mark.
Yeah. And I hope he can do more. And yeah, I really hope. I don't know why SAG didn't nominate Keiran Culkin for his performance. I fully understand why Keiran Culkin is getting supporting actor nominations, even though I think there's no reason he should not be leading role here, because I feel Jesse Eisenberg is much more the supporting role. But I get it. It's so he can get that award. And I really hope he does deserve the nomination. I hope he gets that Oscar nod, because I think he really, really elevates this film, even though everything else is also really well done. This is just a good film, checks all of that like basic good boxes, and just does everything it needs to very succinctly, very well.
Yeah, sounds amazing. I can't wait to watch it.
So yeah, those were our thoughts. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is produced solely by us, musical assets from Pixabay. See you again next time.
Bye-bye.